On this edition of Southern Newsweek, dog walkers set off on a march around a now infamous park to dismiss claims their Christchurch neighbourhood is unsafe. A former Department of Conservation ranger is laying the blame of 4 stolen eggs at the feet of his previous employer. And after a fire and extensive water damage, Dunedin St Paul's Cathedral is almost ready to show off its renovations. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Hannah Wilkins. Dog walkers marched in East Christchurch this week to reclaim a park where an assault took place last week. This group were keen to reclaim their park, while their excited canines got the chance to run around. Residents have been uneasy about using Bexley Reserve following last Monday's stabbing of a middle-aged man while he was out walking his dog. The injured man is still fighting for his life in hospital. The attack left many people feeling unsafe.
I saw an older man walking down Anzac Drive with a stick, behind his arm the day after, and I didn't like it. So, because if someone has to feel like they have to protect themselves, taking their dog for a walk, that's not okay.
Police arrested and charged an 18-year-old man and a 23-year-old woman last week over the incident. He faces a charge of wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, while the woman is charged with being an accessory. Both are due to reappear in court early next month. Almost all of a planned revamp of Dunedin's rubbish and recycling curbside collections has been delayed. The Dunedin City Council had originally planned to switch to wheelie bins for rubbish and a new 5-bin system from the middle of next year, but that's now been postponed until mid-2024.
Get ready to use these black plastic rubbish bags for another year and a half. It follows confirmation by the Dunedin City Council that it's delayed the rollout of most of a revamped rubbish and recycling collection program until the middle of 2024. That's a full year later than originally planned. The council is blaming international supply issues for forcing a delay to the bulk of its program, with specialised collection vehicles not available. The future changes will see wheelie bins replacing black plastic bags for waste, along with a new paid option for a larger bin for food and green waste or a small bin for food scraps. The major delays were revealed as the DCC confirmed the signing of a 10-year, $104 million contract with EnviroWaste, which is set to begin next July. Curbside recycling will be extended to some new areas at that time, including Berwick, Henley and Hoopers Inlet. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A former ranger at the Taiaroa Head albatross colony believes the birds didn't have the proper protection. It's believed 4 northern royal albatross eggs were stolen from the reserve earlier this month, with some criticising DOC's role in managing the birds.
Checking in on the royal albatross eggs used to be part of Lyndon Perriman's day job. Now the former Taiaroa Head albatross colony ranger is laying the blame of a possible theft of eggs at the feet of the Department of Conservation. Perriman was shocked to hear 4 northern royal albatross eggs vanished overnight recently. He says DOC removed a fence which could have prevented the eggs from going missing. A 2-metre-high barbed wire-topped fence was built in the 1970s, which made it harder for people to access the area. However, Perriman says DOC decided to replace it with a fence which was installed too close to the Royal Albatross Centre and isn't as effective. The Department of Conservation is still investigating the missing eggs, but says there's a high chance the mystery may remain unsolved. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Gore's new mayor has faced a few challenges in his first full meeting in charge. Mayor Ben Bell has asked the Gore District Council to fund a personal assistant to support his daily work, but the request was blocked by his council colleagues.
And this is absolutely not back to basics, so in no way can I support it.
Councillors overwhelmingly voted against Mayor Bell's motion to hire Shannon Crosby as his personal assistant, which could have cost ratepayers up to $85,000 a year. Councillors said the mayor had campaigned on a platform of cutting back costs, with Brett Highstead warning him that the motion could be seen as a personal vanity project. Gore's mayor already shares a personal assistant with the council's chief executive. The scaffolding is finally coming down at a Dunedin cathedral after fire tore through the roof 2 years ago. St Paul's has been undergoing extensive repairs since that blaze, prompting wider redevelopment of the building in the hopes of making it a modern community space.
Scaffolders working hard to get the main hall at St Paul's Cathedral ready for Sunday's service. The historic building at the top of the octagon had a fire tear through its roof 2 years ago, causing a hole in the ceiling and water damage on the floors. Repairs are now almost finished, with the scaffolding coming down in the main hall. The scale of repairs opening up a new opportunity to refresh the wider cathedral building and facilities.
The fact that we've had a fire could have sort of knocked us on our backs a bit, but what it's done is made us think even harder about how we can open it up, what we're here for.
Firefighting efforts at the time flooded out the hall underneath, with the Angelic Church taking the chance to turn it into a modern community space. There are plans to add lifts, along with disabled and neutral gender bathrooms, with the aim of becoming more inclusive for everyone.
Now we're getting to the point where they can really inhabit the space again and be excited about what's taking shape for the future.
All the scaffolding will be down in time for this weekend's Advent Carol services.
We'll be able to use the whole space and really hear that wonderful acoustic back in action, so it's very exciting.
The aim is to have all repairs complete by Christmas, with the new developments to take place over the next few years. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on this edition of Southern Newsweek, a new $26 million mall opens in Queenstown, looking to feed locals and tourists alike. And a water filtration invention is looking to clean up the nation's polluted waterways, starting with the Avon. Tēnā koe, welcome back. A new food hall has opened in central Queenstown, marking the completion of the $26 million redevelopment of O'Connell's Mall. Eat Space has now opened on the shopping centre's lower level, with enough choices to satisfy hungry tourists and locals alike.
It's been a bit of a wait, but dinner is finally ready to be served at the upgraded O'Connell's shopping centre in Queenstown. DFS Group took over the bulk of the building in the CBD with their recently opened Galleria retail outlet. Now developer Skyline Enterprises has unveiled its Eat Space food hall. Visitors might have trouble deciding what's for dinner, with a wide range of options ranging from souvlaki to seafood, all arranged around a central bar area.
We all focus on all of the little details along the way, but when you see the finished product, it is fantastic, and look, I think it will be a really great amenity.
The shopping and dining destination is expected to be popular with tourists, and international cuisine is well represented in the hall, with Japanese, Korean, Italian and Thai food all on offer.
It will be somewhere where locals can take visitors and visitors can enjoy, and it will be something for everyone.
The food hall and central bar will be open 7 days a week, with plans for extended hours over the busy summer season. In Queenstown, the South Today.
A collection of Indigenous Australian artefacts, which have been housed at Te Hura Otago Museum, are now heading home again. Representatives of the Warumungu people attended a ceremony at the museum this week to claim the artefacts, which were taken from the Northern Territory over 100 years ago.
Warumungu representatives giving thanks for the return of artefacts from the region with a song played on their boomerangs. A collection of items including a boomerang, stone knives and an adze were returned to the Warumungu people on Thursday by Otago Museum. They were taken in the late 19th or early 20th century from the Tennant Creek region in Australia's Northern Territory. It's one of the first repatriations of Australian Aboriginal items in New Zealand.
And really happy to see our artefacts being sent back home, but also I feel a little bit, touched that to see the people from this country that looked after our artefact for, 120 years and handing it over.
He also made a boomerang and shield to gift to the museum after the welcoming embrace given to them by local mana whenua. The museum has collected objects from different cultures throughout history without knowing the significance behind the items, but Te Hura staff are trying to rectify that.
We're moving into a different phase now where we're recognising the significance of these collection items and ensuring that they're returned to their countries of origin.
Morris hopes these efforts could also lead to the return of more Māori artefacts to New Zealand in the future. in Dunedin, the South Today.
New Zealand's rivers and streams could be running a whole lot cleaner thanks to the invention of a Christchurch researcher. The eClean bioreactor is being trialled by the Christchurch City Council and is currently helping depollute part of the Avon River.
Enjoying the waterways of Christchurch is a pastime for many of its inhabitants. It is also a cause for concern. However, the trial of a new innovative method for improving water quality in rivers and streams is showing some promising results.
Waterways like the Avon and Takarawa are very special to people of Christchurch, and a lot of us have grown up, we've played around here, we've lived around these waterways, and that people got very concerned that they've degraded over time.
The Christchurch City Council is supporting Canterbury University PhD student Nairi Scatuzzi in testing her new invention, the eClean bioreactor.
Water quality and water pollution is a passion of mine, so I got engaged in this project because I wanted to come up with a solution for water pollution in urban and rural environments.
The Council's trial of the biochemical water filtration system has been underway since late 2021 at the headwaters of the Avon in Corfe Reserve.
Basically, this machine is a bioreactor. Basically inside it there's a whole heap of bacteria and you pump contaminated water in one end, the bacteria eats up all the contaminants and then clean water comes out the other end.
It helps filter out nitrates, phosphates and other contaminants from the water. The device can currently process up to 150,000 litres a day, but Scatuzzi says they are scaling up the technology to process up to 1 million litres per day. That would make the machine big enough to capture and process all the water in an average stream, lake or small river, helping restore New Zealand's waterways. In Christchurch, the South Today.
Students from the Southern Institute of Technology have unveiled a 20-year vision for a stretch of neglected Invercargill waterfront. And while it's just a homework assignment for now, some residents believe the ambitious plan could be just what the area needs.
It's hardly the French Riviera, but students have been asked to find potential in this stretch of the Invercargill estuary. Situated close to the airport and encompassing a former landfill, the Pleasure Bay site is now overgrown and silted up. But architecture students from the Southland Institute of Technology have been asked to think big.
They've developed designs for a conference centre. As part of that, the following year students have done designs for restaurants on the water's edge.
It's not just about development. The Rotarians who initially approached the architecture students were also interested in designs that enhance the natural waterway.
It feels good to possibly create something that will bring more life to the city and connect people to the land and the water a bit more.
The master plan also outlines ways of bringing activity to the area and reconnecting it with the city.
To also attract people to Invercargill, as there is not many attractions for younger people, but we can create something for them.
Their lecturer admits the plan is ambitious, but believes some enhancements could be achieved cheaply, such as the idea of restoring mussel beds to help filter pollution. The students are hoping to present their project to the wider community for feedback early next year. In Invercargill, the South Today.
The northern town of Uamaru went back in time last weekend for its popular annual festival. Crowds in costumes filled the streets for the Victorian Heritage celebrations, with activities and entertainment throughout the day after a 2-year hiatus.
A good excuse to dress up in Victorian clothing as the region welcomes back its annual heritage celebrations. The Oamaru Victorian Fete returned over the weekend after COVID-19 forced the event to be cancelled last year. Despite the weather, crowds braved the rain to attend the event, enjoying the range of live music and entertainment the festival had to offer.
We're very happy with the turnout today, and the Fete is our annual fundraiser for the Oamaru Whitestone Civic Trust to help us maintain these beautiful historic buildings.
Entertainers in costumes walked the streets in the town's historic precinct, with locals also taking the opportunity to play dress-up. The Fete's a chance for North Otago people to turn back the clock and step back in time, recreating the colour and atmosphere of the Victorian age.
We've got people here with steampunk outfits on, and we dress up, especially for the Oamaru Festival, with that tweak.
The weekend Fete was the culmination of the Oamaru Victorian Heritage celebrations. In Oamaru, the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, a Southland edition of Monopoly is on the market, 3 mayors coming together for the product's launch. And a former America's Cup chase boat finds a new home in Otago's harbour, ready to ferry around passengers. Tēnā koe, welcome back. Southland has long been known for its more reasonably priced property, but that might not be the case for much longer, with the region launching its very own version of Monopoly.
3 mayors, but only one can be the winner. The mayors of Southland, Invercargill and Gore faced off this week to test out the special Southland edition of the classic board game Monopoly. The promotional game is the brainchild of the Southland Business Chamber and features some iconic Southland attractions.
So in our board you start in the heart of Southland and then you follow the southern scenic route right throughout the region, with all the traditional Monopoly things thrown in between.
While it started out all smiles for the regional mayors, things quickly got serious.
I think if I can get the other 2 mayors in jail and then I'll take over the whole board while they're sitting in there, I think is the tactics, I think.
I just think it's part of a much wider issue where the county want to take over everything.
And Gore's new mayor reckons he has youth on his side.
Well, to be fair, it is a bit of a kids game, and so I would be the closest in being a kid, so I think I'd have the most skill set here.
Rivalries aside, the game's set to be a popular stocking stuffer this Christmas in the south. The 3 mayors happy to encourage the friendly rivalry, with the project drawing more attention to the southern part of Aotearoa. Across the South Today.
Thousands of runners and walkers hit Queenstown's streets last weekend, testing the limit of their minds and bodies. The Queenstown Marathon returned after a 2-year break, with the event attracting some inspirational efforts.
Getting the stretching in before the air horn blasted the race into action. Around 13,000 runners and walkers gathered in Queenstown on Saturday, hitting the ground running for the city's annual marathon event. Fans and support crews got into the spirit along the way, ready to cheer on from the sidelines. And to keep the runners on the move, there were tables full of healthy snacks for energy, as well as a smooth system to keep the athletes hydrated. Queenstown's marathon hasn't been held for the last 2 years due to COVID-19 issues. The weekend event a welcome challenge for this 87-year-old half-marathon runner. David Graham started running when he was 83, even inspiring his family to join in the day's races. The bell rang to mark the end of the multi-hour efforts, competitors receiving medals after making it across the finish line, as well as a much-deserved sit-down. In Queenstown, the South Today.
A former America's Cup chase boat is now enjoying a new life after the hurly-burly of international yachting on the Waitemata Harbour. The vessel's now calling Otago Harbour home after being purchased by Otago Water Taxis as a ship-to-shore shuttle.
Making waves in fresh waters. This boat once had an impressive career at the upper echelon of yachting in New Zealand.
Originally it was one of the America's Cup chase boats from 2002 in Auckland, and they got donated to the Coast Guards way back then.
The former chase boat was purchased by Otago Water Taxis and Tours earlier this year. Around 2 decades ago it was zipping around Auckland's Waitemata Harbour and was later donated to local Coast Guards. These days it's shuttling tourists across Otago Harbour, albeit at a more sedate pace. Rob Emmett runs the company with his wife, with the pair sharing the ferrying duties on sea and land.
We're running people from Back Beach across to Broad Bay. My wife picks them up in the van, she runs them up the hill to the castle, and they have an hour and a half up there. Then she brings them back down to McAndrew Bay, and then they jump on the boat again with me and I take them into the steamer basin in town.
Emmett says the New Zealand Coast Guard received boats like this at the end of America's Cup campaigns. This boat became surplus to requirements for the local organisation after the latest chase boats were released to Coast Guards around the country. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The magic life of Dunedin in the early years of the last century has been revealed in a newly discovered book. The volume includes details about a mysterious Otago magic club and has inspired a local magic historian to pick up the pen himself.
Magic moments revealed in a leather-bound tome. Murray Craig's a historian for the Otago Magic Circle and found this book while clearing out the home of deceased Dunedin magician Arthur Bingham.
We found a rather historical tome, a large book, that had information about a club we never knew existed.
The magic book is the work of Tommy Thompson, the man who founded the Otago Magical Society in 1937.
There are all sorts of programs, brochures, photos, newspaper clippings, quite a lot of them, and with his name nicely underlined.
Thompson was also the first New Zealander to be made an associate of the Inner Magic Circle. The discovery inspiring Craig to write a history of mystery.
I decided to write a book about them. But not only them, I decided that our own club, which equally turned 65 this year, needed recording as well.
Both books have now been donated to the Hocken collection and will be available to view later this year. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Motorcyclists sporting back patches filled the Octagon this week for a good cause. The White Ribbon Riders, including bikers from the Tribal Nation group, are on a tour around the South Island, speaking out against domestic violence.
Dunedin's mayor, mingling with bikers from the Tribal Nation group and other members of the White Ribbon Ride. The Octagon, just one stop off on their 2-week ride around the South Island, campaigning against domestic violence. A spokesperson for the riders says it's important to reach as many young people as possible with their anti-violence message.
Some of the response we get from the public, it hasn't been well responded to in most areas we're going to. But a lot of the schools have been really good about taking us in.
Dunedin's mayor dusting off his own motorbike to join the riders and reinforce their message.
Critically important that people who are engaged in violence and perhaps come before the courts for that, get some actual practical help that makes a difference.
The riders are on their last leg of their almost 3,000 kilometre journey and will be finishing their tour in Timaru this weekend. In Dunedin, the South Today.
That wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again next week. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.